How's it going, everyone? It is Prashan here, and as always, I have Tuckerino here. How's it going, Tucker?
Hey, it is great to be here, Prashan. You know what we're going to do this weekend, you guys? We're going to win the weekend. We got some awesome decks to help you guys either hit Infinite or just continue to just dominate Conquest.
Yeah, for sure. Like the season's going pretty fast. I think it's going pretty well for me. I don't know. It's all right. Infinite day one. You, again, the king here. What were you ranked, like 6 or something?
7. I was ranked
7. My bad. Yeah, so obviously the season's going well for you. We do have Malekith here. Malekith is a 4/6 on reveal. Add a 1, 2, or 3 cost card from your deck here, but does not reveal until the game ends, which I think in concept this is pretty cool. There's a few decks that this fits in pretty well. I think this is a pretty good card. It could work in like the Darkhawk stuff, the like Ronan stuff. I think Ronan could be valuable again. But I think the only problem is Surtur. Surtur goes crazy tall, so you sort of want to go crazy tall too. But what are your thoughts on this card, Tucker?
I like this card. I think you hit it right on the nail. Like, with Darkhawk, with Ronan, it's one of like the key hubs you're gonna see like with this card. Right now it still interacts with Zabu and Pixie, so like because it's a capital cost and those costs are shuffled, you can draw 4 drops and potentially other cards, but that's not how it's intended. But I do think this card does have a lot of value. Of course, there's also a lot of Alioth right now, and Alioth kind of offsets what Malekith does, but even just getting another card out with Malekith, it's deck thinning, and this normally is not just a 4/6 like ever. It can be more or less like a 4/8 or a 4/10, 4/9. It just depends on what you draw. It can be a snap condition, but I think this is a solid card. Not necessarily a must-have card, but it is a solid card.
Yeah, definitely a solid card, and we'll go into a list that I think is pretty good right now. And this is from Regis, Regis Ronan, Hydra Bob, Master Mold, Grandmaster, Maximus, Mystique, Red Guardian, Baron, Zemo, Gladiator, Malekith, Symbiote Spider-Man, Ronan, and Alioth. So, just like Invisible Woman, whenever you play Malekith and Malekith pulls Mystique, technically she doesn't reveal until the end of the game. So I tried to play Ronan on turn 6. Sorry, that way Mystique can copy your Ronan. You just have to make sure like you play Hydra Bob then Ronan. But I think that's pretty cool. Like even Malekith pulling like Master Mold or Maximus at the end of the game can win you the game just by boosting up your Ronan. Of course, you have Alioth here to slow things down just in case they have like a Shang-Chi or something too. And Symbiote Spider-Man, I think is pretty interesting in this deck because it lets you do some of the on-reveal things twice. Like you could possibly play Red Guardian again. You could play Baron Zemo again. You could play Gladiator again. And then technically your Gladiator is even bigger, so it's going to take down anything it pulls. So I think that's a pretty cool concept in this deck. You can even use it technically on Malekith too to pull another card if you need to. It's a pretty solid list. I still don't think it goes as tall, but it is pretty solid. I think like if this was a few seasons ago, this would be an awesome list to play.
Yeah, and I think you said it the same way. Like I think it's like there's a bunch of different ins and outs, and like with Malekith here too, like if you wait until like later, you maybe you're not wanting to Gladiator on curve. So like your Malekith allows you to have that Gladiator option later in the game. You're not really going to tempo Maximus for the power. So if you get that with Malekith, you get the value, and Malekith right there is a 4/12 plus the Ronan. If it's the Mystique value, like there's so many different ins and outs with this list. That's really nice. Like Prashan said too, you don't necessarily scale as huge as like you would against like a Surtur list. But Master Mold can also be really cheeky in a way to make it to offset their draws. You have Grandmaster to do it again. It just is a very creative process here of like either clogging your opponent's hand and stealing cards or like destroying them. It feels really good. I like that we're getting a lot of usage in this list from cards people aren't playing a lot of right now.
Yeah, definitely. Master Mold doesn't get the love she deserves. I think she's a she. She makes other Sentinels, right? Mommy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
Mommy.
Next deck here. We have a toxic deck here. Zabu, Hazmat, Shadow King, U.S. Agent, Valentina, Rogue, Luke Cage, Copycat, Agent Venom, Man Thing, Typhoid Mary, and Sarah. So with all the Surtur stuff going on, I think this type archetype here is getting a lot of love because U.S. Agent, you have the Shadow King to attack that Surtur. And then the whole anti-venom, I think people are starting to believe in anti-venom at this point, especially with the synergies with Luke Cage and Shadow King. So overall, I think it's pretty good. And then Sarah lets you do more things at the end of the game. You could use the Rogue, Typhoid Mary, like etc. Even with the Agent Venom, you have something at a zero cost. You could just put more cards on the board and attack the board where you could get the win.
Yeah, and you're actually getting some like Valentina value too, potentially like getting a 6-drop you can play on turn 4. You maybe play it with your anti-venom card as well. If Zabu hits any of these 4-drops and then you Sarah, it's 2 cost 4-drops, which is, kind of wild in that sense. And then Copycat's really good because like your opponents normally aren't drawing other cards, so you're getting that extra value. And like what Prashant said too, US Agent is just incredible into the Surtur matchup. And you can also tempo Hazmat potentially to offset a lot of these 10 power cards to take away the discount on the Scar. So yeah, there's a bunch of different ins and outs that like work really well with this list.
For sure. And then next, we have Bounce. Bounce did take a hit from the OTA as we're recording this, right? So Silver Sable, she's now a 0. Agent Venom is a 2/5, sets the power to everything in your deck to 3. So it only affects, Toxin, Nico, Iceman, Rocket, Sable, and Hood, which is still pretty good. It's pretty much half of your deck anyways, and then it only the negative effects is only to Beast from what I can see here. So overall, this is still pretty good. You just have to know when to bounce and not bounce. Like Iceman is a new addition technically to this deck where you could potentially hurt the curve of your opponent. And then if you bounce them a few times, hopefully you can hit the same card and they can't do what they want, and you just win the game.
Yeah, I think this list still is solid. I think, the what you can call it, Agent Venom needed to not be +4 anymore. That was the biggest gripe. So they took away the +4 and they gave him extra power. I think, like Prashant said, it does offset a couple things in this list. I think like other cards and other lists are going to get more affected with the Agent Venom change, but like people were already running Bass with Agent Venom, so keep that in mind. So of course they continue to work hand in hand. You can't do Cerebro things anymore if you guys were playing some Cerebro 4, which I hope you guys weren't. But this list is still solid. I think Bounce is in a good spot, even with the amount of Cosmo and Alioth everywhere. There's still so many different ways you duck priority and can just go over the top.
Yeah, very solid list for all the Bounce enjoyers out there. And now we're going into some Surtur. Everyone's favorite fireball Surtur here. We have some Wiccan Surtur. So we have Maria Hill, Quicksilver, Mirage, Cable, Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, Speed, Surtur, Shang-Chi, Wiccan, Arrow, Alioth, and Magneto. So this is basically like a hybrid deck of like what we had a few seasons ago with Wiccan and Speed, and then we just add in some Surtur shenanigans. You have cards like Arrow, Alioth, Magneto, and then you have Wiccan here to play some of those cards ahead of curve. You could play Magneto early for some disruption. You could play your Alioth early for some disruption, and Arrow is here for disruption too. So all of your big cards basically do crazy things. And then, of course, you have Sneaky Speed here, the most boring card from a few seasons ago, doing speed things. And then, obviously, you have the whole Maria Hill, Quicksilver, Mirage, Cable stuff, even Hawkeye. That way, you can play on curve. That way, you can get your Wiccan to go off.
Yeah, this list is really solid. I think Chamo is the one who made this list. It just came to my remembrance right now. I think they hit like rank 1. Using some wicked Surtur things because of just how good Surtur is. Surtur also did get hit in the OTA. He went from a 3/5 to a 3/4. So just got 1 nick of power, but like I think it still works for the Scar stuff. But this list seems really solid. So like you Quicksilver on 1 if you have 2 drops in hand, or you Maria Hill on 1 so you have another 2-drop to play to keep spiraling down that curve. But there's so many different ins and outs to kind of like make sure you get some wicked things.
Yeah, I like how like the whole Speed Wiccan thing made Mirage like come back, from like I would always say like you rather would play Cable than Mirage, but in this case, you would rather play Mirage, especially in this meta too, because you could snipe something good from your opponent as well. And I think that's it for this week. We have a pretty tame week this week, but with the OTA, yeah, maybe some spicy stuff will happen next week. But I will be on a boat, and Tucker will be lonely. So it's okay. It's okay. So I'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll have some spicy decks for you guys. Thank you for hanging out, Tucker. And do you have anything to say to the peeps before we take off?
The season is still young. If you guys haven't hit Infinite yet, you guys still got plenty of time. The OTA today, of course, can totally shake up the meta. We have a lot of pretty big changes in the OTA, so this could totally change within a couple days. But this is where the meta is out prior to the OTA, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, I hope you have a great trip, Rashawn. And if you guys are not, sub to this channel right here, you guys need to make sure you guys are sub to Rashawn. Hit that notification bell so you guys can see every video every single day, because this man makes content every single day.
Yeah, I try to. And then sub to this guy here. He's on fire. He's like Surtur right now because of Surtur. So give Tucker a follow. I'll have all of his stuff down below. So you guys be safe. Keep on snapping. And peace.